This being the first Sunday in Lent, tradition in churches across the world is to read about Jesus' temptation as you think about yours. So as we look at ourselves and as we head toward Easter and we examine ourselves and we examine what we struggle with, we look at Christ and what he struggled with. Mark has no account of specific temptations. I'm going to read to you from Matthew. I went back and forth with Luke and Matthew. The difference is in the order of the three temptations. What Matthew and Luke do agree on is that Jesus was sent by the Spirit. This is right after his baptism, when the heavens open up and he hears, "You are my child, my beloved. With you I am well pleased. Now go out in the desert and meet with the devil." And that's the way life is like that, right? You come and hear the good news, and then you have to go out and meet some trial that challenges you to question whether or not you really are beloved of God. And so having just heard that he was the beloved of God, he goes out in the desert, and in Matthew we will read where the devil challenges him to prove it. So if you are the Son of God, and these three proofs are what we're going to look at. And I will point out to you here that this version of the devil and this representation is not like the Star Wars and the Force where there's a dark side and there's the good side. In this instance, the devil is working for God. He is Jesus' professor in this moment, and Jesus is sent by the Spirit to meet with the devil for his education. And before he can go out into his ministry, he has to deal with these challenges as he affirms not just who God is, but who God says he is. Listen for a word from God for you as you begin your journey from Matthew chapter 4. Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was famished. And the tempter came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, then command these stones to become loaves of bread." But Jesus answered, "It's written, one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." The devil took him to the holy city and placed him on the pinnacle of the temple, saying to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone." And Jesus said to him, "Again it is written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." Again the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and all their splendor. And he said to him, "All these I will give you if you will fall down and worship me." And Jesus said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." The devil left him, and suddenly angels came and waited on him. Friends, this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I want to talk to you a little bit about a crisis of faith that I had many years ago when I was in high school. I don't know what it was like with you growing up, but for me, this was something I was certain about. And yet, in an experience and in a moment, called me to question what I believe. Throughout the country, they were doing Coke and Pepsi taste tests, in which you would go into the mall and at the table there would be Coke on one side and Pepsi on the other, and you were asked to taste and tell which one you liked better. And so I drank from each cup, and I chose Pepsi. I know. That's wrong. I still don't believe it. I think it was a trick. And then all my friends would ask, "Hey, did you take the Coke test?" I said, "Yeah." "Which one did you pick?" "I picked Pepsi." It was just wrong. But it caused me to question what I know about what I like. If I so believed that Coke was better, and to this day I still believe Coke is better, and I don't drink that kind of stuff because it stays with you a lot longer, and then I get too hyper and can't sleep now that I'm old. But in the day, if I went to a restaurant and said, "Hey, I can get a Coke," and they said, "Well, we have Pepsi products." "No, okay, that's fine. Just give me water." I was a true believer. And then I got married to a girl from Michigan, and they drink pop. What's pop? I mean, growing up, it was Coke and whatever. You want a Coke? Yes. Well, what kind? Sprite, Diet. I mean, everything was Coke. I don't know if you know it or not, but it's a little bit regional. Because being from South Carolina, Coke came out of Georgia and Pepsi came out of North Carolina. And I don't know what Florida means, but growing up in the South, you have a certain distrust for states north of you and you look down on states below you. But we were all Coke people, not Pepsi people. But yet when something you're so sure about, why did I pick the other? How did I not know? I have those other crises of confidence. I went to preach one day and Carrie looked and said, man, those socks are really blue with those black pants. And I said, no, they can't be. They were black when I put them on. I really believed they were black. If I can't be sure about the color of my socks, tan today, khaki, how can I be sure about what I'm going to tell you about this? Especially when there are 4 gospels. Why not just one gospel to make it easier on everybody so we know exactly what we were talking about? That idea of belief really challenges us toward what we approach life. And so this first temptation, I think, is an interesting one because we hold tightly to what we believe. And then when it's challenged, it's very painful. As we think about this first challenge, Jesus is there and he's fasting 40 days. And 40 means a long time. Noah in the ark, 40 days and nights of rain. And 40 means a long time. And so he's hungry and the devil says, look, if you're the Son of God, you shouldn't be suffering like this. You should be comfortable. This discomfort, this dis-ease, this disease is not for you. You're special. Make that stone into bread. And he said, no. But that temptation of being comfortable is a big deal. We like to get together with people of like minds. And we think that we are with people of like minds until some big crisis comes up. And then whatever you thought was is not. And it makes you question. And it makes us uncomfortable. Who noticed that the bulletin's folded a little bit askew today? Bonnie, how long before you had to refold it? Bonnie's going to go home and cut it before she throws it away. I did that today because the printing was a little bit off, so I just oh, she already cut it. Never mind. It's okay. It's just like being comfortable, and we like things a certain way, and a certain way helps us to feel comfortable. And so we get things like that. I think it actually is more efficient because it's easier to flip open. Really had more to do with margins and just my unwillingness to redo it. But we like things to be a certain way. It makes us comfortable. And the devil said, look, for you, it ought to be comfortable. Can you go to that place of discomfort in order to grow? We tell people that our church is like a family sometimes, and I had a professor in seminary, and I thought he was way off. He said, that's one of the worst images for church ever, because families are all about comfort and not about growth. And it's true. When I am home, the distance from the couch to the refrigerator is a long way. When we are home, my family doesn't get along as well as if we were in Haiti or in working on some project together and we have a purpose, we're all working together. But if we're home, then little things become big things. Jesus said, no, I'm not going to seek comfort above all else. It's been interesting as Sadaf and I have talked about cultures. I grew up in the textile mill where you are what you produce, but my children are growing up in a world where the most valuable approach to life is how to get the most for the least amount of cost. How can I get it the cheapest? Not what do I make, but what can I get? And not even materialistic because it's consumer. The discomfort. How are these people in my way? This traffic, this comfort is a temptation. To pick comfort above all else, chooses it above growth and challenge. The next temptation, the devil takes him in this gospel to the top of the temple. And he gets there and it's in the middle of the city, and they want him to be spectacular. And he says, if you throw yourself off and all these people here can see you, and you don't die, then they'll know you're the Son of God. This idea of being superior. To bury a teenager this week, there's a certain thing that happens in the mind of an adolescent, and I think it's when death starts becoming a reality. It's called a personal fable. It can't happen to me. It can happen to other people, but it can't happen to me. That, combined with gasoline and hormones as a 15-year-old male, was not safe for my friends and I. But it wouldn't happen to us. It can't happen to me. Be special. That's the temptation. First Presbyterian. Is First Presbyterian that way, or is this First Presbyterian? Which one's first? Or which one's the First Presbyterian? Is Orlando Presbyterian First Presbyterian Church? Yes, we are. You know why I believe that? Because you pay me. I'm just saying, it's up for negotiation if, but I think you're fine. I did tell if you want to get rid of anybody who's come into your house knocking on the door, I tell them I get paid to believe what I believe, but if you have a better offer, let me know. And they don't know what to say and they go away. But that makes us uncomfortable. I guess as I get older, I'm challenged to question not just what I believe, but belief so much. And looking at the Muslim world and the Christian world, if Muhammad is the prophet, if Jesus is the Messiah, are they both so insecure that they are insulted so easily? Do they have to have the masses knowing who they are? Or if you are the Messiah, then you don't need fame. Was he not comfortable with the 12 disciples? Whether the crowd got it or not, he was patient with the intimate relationship. He didn't need the world to recognize him for him to be who he is. It's on us or not. A woman went to see at an art museum and saw one of the Van Gogh's paintings and said, I don't get what it's all about. And the curator said, ma'am, it's not Van Gogh who's on trial here. Jesus can't be insulted. An insult is like a gift, they say. If you put it on somebody and they don't receive it, it comes back to you. He's above that. You don't have to be spectacular. You don't have to have the biggest crowd. I had a minister where ministers tend to talk. How many did you have at worship? He said, well, we're having between 500 and 600. Really? How many did you have last week? 42. It's between 500 and 600. But we're all capable of that, wanting to prove it. And that's really where it starts to get. And that's really where we see where we are with Jesus. Are you going to have to prove it? That's the temptation. If you're beloved by God, then prove it. Never be discomfortable. Never have illness befall you. Never have death early. Jesus dies at 33. Muhammad lives to be an old man. Buddha lives to be an old man. Jesus dies at 33. So what about us? To not have to have others recognize that you're special, but that you're loved so you can do special things. And then we get to the third temptation, the toughest one, I think, especially when you continue to listen to the rhetoric through the years. The devil shows him all the kingdoms of the world, and he says, all this can be yours if you just bow before me. Will the ends justify the means? You can fix the world's problems. You can bring justice and order. This temptation is about control. The Roman Empire, perhaps the greatest empire ever, since it didn't have to totally destroy a city to gain control of it. But the Roman Empire was about control. You reward and you punish, or you pacify. He said, I will give you control of them all. But Jesus said, no. Get away from me, Satan. For Jesus, his means were his ends, and his way was love, which always allowed others to choose without gaining control. And that's what love is. If there's a competition, it's not about who Jesus is or Muhammad is, but who supports love. And the difference, I think, as I'm starting to learn, is the difference between not so much what you believe about God, but what God believes about you and what you believe God believes about you. It's called the looking glass principle. And if you want to know what influences how you see yourself, it's what you believe the most important people or one in your life believes about you. Islam means submission, which is a great virtue, and they pray with discipline that is unparalleled. But shouldn't God's people be comfortable? Shouldn't we be wealthy? Shouldn't we have it easy? Shouldn't we be in control? No, for Jesus was none of those things. But Jesus always chose love. Again and again. Viktor Frankl, to bring in a Jewish voice, said in the concentration camp, you can take away everything from me except my choice to respond to whatever you do. When Jesus empowered people to love, those who backed control got very nervous. Because control can't deal with somebody who will love regardless, even if it means saying no. It's not the same as being nice. It's very threatening to the status quo. We are all here in a Christian church. One of us knows what it means to proclaim that at risk of life. Just take a stand. We are here as a church trying to take a stand for more respect, especially for the marginalized. But one has done that at the risk of his life. It's a perspective we need to have. Because to choose love over comfort, choose love over being special and spectacular, even at the risk of your own life or the life of whatever you treasure or the loss of whatever you treasure. To choose love even over the temptation to try and control other people through either being really upset and saying, look what you did to me on the cross, or nailing somebody to a cross. Control is not love. Boundaries are okay, but choice is difficult. Those are the temptations we walk. And the good news is we have one who's walked it before us. And the good news is that love always wins. We still talk about Jesus, though at the time the method seemed like a loss. But through love, you learn how losing can lead to winning. You learn how death can lead to new life, and powerlessness can lead to a higher power. The path we're called to walk. The real thing. Thanks be to God. Let us pray. God, the kingdom of this world is not working for us. We sold out Christmas. We skip over Good Friday from Palm Sunday to Easter. And we are afraid of this path that says there's something more important than comfort, that maybe we don't aren't special or have to be because we're loved, and that control is just a fantasy. And we are responsible for our choices, and we are able to choose in our relationships. God, help us to walk that path and to find your new life for us every place along the journey. For we would be people not of this world kingdom, but of your kingdom, and we would see that reality for all your children. That's why we've come. That's why we've gathered. That's why we pray as we were taught, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.